When we ended our last video, we were talking about building a data dictionary and we're looking at the bargaining survey. So let's just keep going with a couple more rows of that data dictionary. Hopefully you had a chance to work through some of the additional questions. So let's see how well you did. So we looked at question 1 and this 1A last time, and then I'm just going to go back to our questionnaire so we can see what else there was here. So that took care of this priorities question. And so the next question, question 2 here, needs a name. And this question that we have is about the type of contract. So we might call it contract type. You can call it something else, just contract, right? That's really up to your discretion. And then description here might be just as simple as type of contract. Okay. And it's going to be the potential values of part-time and full-time that really tell us what we mean by contract type. Now, what we want to do here is do scale. And so remember, nominal, ordinal, interval, or ratio. And here we really just have 2 categories. So we have nominal. And the data here can be string as text if we're not coding it to 1, 2. If we're coding it, then we should enter it as an integer. Relationships to other variable fields, we leave that blank. All of it is a survey. Then we go to our next one, question 3. And question 3 was, how satisfied are you with the healthcare benefits? So we could call this healthcare satisfied. You can call these things, again, anything you want. Shorter is better. You'll notice as we move through my videos and through my Python code that often is just the first couple letters, excuse me, of a word. Not very creative when it comes to coming up with variable and field names. But we can look at healthcare satisfaction, and description here is level of satisfaction. With healthcare benefits. So for a survey, these descriptions are often just the question reworded or the same wording. If it is going to be a database where it was collected through other means, maybe it was collected through sensor data, equipment collecting information, maybe it's timestamps. Your description could be that it's a date and what format the date is in. So you might have more information here, you might not have tons. In this case, what we have is a Likert scale. It is ordinal because there is ranking to it. And then again, in this case, if we are going to code it so that we're going to call completely dissatisfied, let's just put it in here. I'm going to put completely dissatisfied as 1. I'm going to put dissatisfied as 2. I'm going to put neither as 3. I'm going to put satisfied as 4. And I'm going to put completely satisfied as 5. So then it's going to be an integer. All the information is going to be whole numbers. And so by doing this way with the Likert scale, instead of leaving it as text, I can then do calculations like what percentage of respondents were satisfied or completely satisfied. So I can group the categories together to find out what percentage had positive feedback. And I can also do an analysis where I can find out what percentage had negative feedback. And then I can also find the average or the median response to know where we are. Are we more towards the positive? Are we more towards the negative? Are we more towards the middle? By turning it into quantitative data. Okay, so question 4, I won't keep going through this list. You can do that here. Question 4, we would treat very much like question 1 because it has the open-ended, so we would separate them out. Question 5 is very much like question 2. You have a yes, no, and I don't know. So we have 3 options for our nominal data. Question 6 is very much like question 3. So again, ordinal. Question 7 is like question 2. And so you can see for the most of these, the data dictionary is going to be very repetitive. We do have a difference here for question 8. And so you should be populating all of it, but I'm just here doing the ones that are different. Question 8 was the write-in response. Okay, they're going to write in numbers. What we would actually do when we go to do this data, put it into the system, we would actually separate these out into A, B, C, D, E, F. And that is because we want the importance of professional dues. All right. And then the answers that we're going to collect are going to be the numbers that people write in next to professional dues. So it's going to be 1 to 6. So under our potential values, it's going to be 1 to 6. And 1 is most important. Okay. So our description here is going to be ranking of importance. You might have in your description that it's also 1 to 6 with 1 the most important. Sometimes these data dictionaries are a bit repetitive. In our scale here, the responses are going to be numbers. Okay. If there is no number, there is no ranking. So we're actually ratio data here. And we are going to be integer because there's only whole numbers. And so with this, what we can do is find the average ranking for professional dues. We can do the same thing with relocation pay. What's its average ranking? And so we can then look at which one has the most variability in the way people ranked it, which one has the highest average ranking. And so we're going to do quantitative analysis to this. But we're actually going to break it out into the different parts. So the next one, for example, was PD, professional development. And can't type here today. So then if we get to question 9 says, what compensation improvements would you like to see? So we could just call this comp improvement. Okay. So here we have our variable and field names. We can have them as multiple words. If you're going to use them as variable names in Python, then you'll want to have them short, and you'll want to use like an underscore to make it all one word. If you're writing it out as professional dues or comp improvement, then when we go and put this in Python, you'll want to come up with some shortened name, CI for comp improvement, or got to distinguish between professional development and professional dues. If you're going to use these variable and field names as your Python variable names, then you might want to treat them like this one where it says contract type underscore, and then that can be the variable name as opposed to just full words out like this. So depending on how you want to do it when you enter it into the system. So question 9 was open-ended. Compensation improvements, description. This is a write-in. So open-ended question, what people want to see for compensation. So it's not going to have a scale because there's not limited choices. The field type is going to be string because it's going to be text. There's not potential values because it could be anything. So this data dictionary at a glance helps us see what type of information have we collected and will help us then with the type of analysis we're going to do. All right, I'll leave it up to you to do the rest. The rest to fall into one of those categories that we have already just looked at. I'll give you one more to work on. So let's just go back to this screen here and look at a different scenario. So the previous one was a survey. Here is a database. So we have a company that builds websites. Your information systems tracks potential businesses that might want to use your website building service. So we have a customer relationship management software that tracks our contacts with potential clients, as well as information about the client and the communication with our sales team. So what is this database? This database includes our employees, the potential clients, and then it looks at over time the contacts that are made with the potential client and classifies the relationships. Is it qualified? So they've been flagged as somebody who might be a customer. Have we contacted them? Have we shown them a demo? Have we given them a proposal? So an estimate as to what it would cost and what we could do for them. Have we negotiated a contract? Did we win that contract? Did we lose that customer? Okay, so we can look at those different relationships, and those could be coded. We would probably not want to code lost in that ranking because the rest of them build, qualified, then contacted, then demo, then proposal, then negotiations, then won. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to 6. We might want to create a separate variable for flagging when that was lost, because loss isn't the natural progression after one. It is a separate category. We want to improve our communications between salespeople and customers, and research, like the Gong Research Labs, a marketing research company, says the highest performing salespeople listen 57% of the time and talk 43% of the time. Our top performers, according to Gong Research Labs, also pause 5 times longer after objections than the average performers. So our people are trained to listen and don't just immediately talk when someone objects. And they pause for about 1.5 seconds. Gong also recommends that we track call interactivity. So how often do we switch between who's talking between the salesperson and the potential client? How long does each customer or salesperson speak uninterrupted? The average talking speed of the salesperson, we should collect that. The ideal is about 44 words per minute. Too fast or too slow can be problematic. So we're collecting all this information, and we've been collecting it over a 3-month period of time. So we have this data set. And the data set is actually from multiple sources. We have a data set that is the customer information. That is, how much is their company worth? What industry do we classify it in? What's the projected value of a contract with them? That's specific to the customer. Then we have a database about the salesperson. And then we have a database that's related to the contacts and the interactions. And we have tracked the month of March, we have tracked the month of April, and we have tracked the month of May. So what we want to do is create a data dictionary related to this information. You can see on the right, that's what the database looks like, and we'll work through this data set in other videos. You can see on the left the possible responses. So essentially the first part of a data dictionary here for you to help summarize what is in this customer relationship management database. So let's expand on this and create the full data dictionary. And just what you see here is, this is March at the bottom here. Here's a bit more of March, and then April, and then May. So for each of the 3 months, we have the date they were contacted, the stage the relationship is in, the talk to listen ratio, the average talking speed of our employee, the average pause time of our salesperson, the longest customer monologue is how long, How interactive was it? And so this is a self-rating by the salesperson on a scale of 0 to 10. How interactive did they feel it was? And so we can actually compare perception of interactivity to some of these other measurements that we're collecting. So what we're using is a system here where it monitors and quantifies the recording. It's not someone actually tracking their average talking speed or pauses. It is that we have a device within our phone system that is actually recording the change and the pause automatically for the salesperson. But our salesperson is going to rate their interaction, and then they're also going to rate in terms of the customer sentiment. How positive, negative, or neutral did they feel the customer was? So we're combining sources for different, from different sources, some that are sensor-based, some that are the salesperson, and so we have multiple sources here. We are rating the customer relationship health, and then also the customer is providing their preferred follow-up method, and we have that for each. So we can create a data dictionary. Here we have field, because the database, as opposed to like our survey with different questions or variables. And then we have a description of each field, measurement scale, and field type to help us in terms of our analysis. Potential values in our customer relationship management system, there are drop-down menus. And so we want to identify when there's a drop-down menu. So here we have stage of relationship, qualified, contacted, demo, proposal, negotiation, won, lost. And so those are the possible values, right? When it comes to one like this, where it's percentage salesperson listened per minute, it's a number between 0 and 100%. If we're looking at words per minute, right, we are somewhere between 0 and the goal is to be around 44. So let's say the highest end is 100 words a minute. So we're giving a range. We're recognizing that it's numbers. We're identifying that the numbers in the average pause and the longest customer monologue are in seconds. So we want to note that information in our data dictionary. So you could have, in addition to your potential values, you should have a column in terms of how it's measured if you want to separate it out and say seconds, minutes, or you can identify that in the description and or the potential values. Relationship. So if we have a relationship between variables or we have created variables from other variables, we would want to note that. And then our origin. So we have our March spreadsheet, our April spreadsheet, our customer list. They're coming from different sources. So take a moment and see if you can turn some of this into a data dictionary. So starting here with our first question or our first variable or field here about the salesperson. And so what we've done essentially for some of our future analysis is we've kind of flattened these multiple source spreadsheets into a single spreadsheet just for doing some future analysis. But it might be a database, so these are completely from different places and different tables. So pause the video, go through these, create a couple of items for the data dictionary, and then we'll compare answers. All right. Somehow I closed it. So let's open up just the spreadsheet I was using before. Sheet 2. And separate out data dictionary here. All right. Nope, get the whole page. All right, so let's start with variable number 1 here. Oh, I did have it open. I just lost it. All right, so our first field, you can have it, question 1, if you have some kind of label or number, we want to give that a variable or field name. So in this case, it's going to be salesperson. And so pretty self-explanatory. So this is one of our salespeople. Okay. It is going to be nominal. If field type is going to be a string, if we're using names. And so we have Smith and Garcia and Chen and Zhao and Taylor and Debbie. Okay, and this origin here, this is coming from our employee database. Whatever you want to call that source, okay? You might have more information coming from the employee database that you're putting in here. We'll just simply go to question number 2 here. Now we're getting into the customer. So here we have company revenue. Again, if you're going to use them as Python variable names, then use underscore, make it all one word, make it short. If you're going to give it a different name or label later, you'll want to note that somewhere, and then you can have a bit longer, but variable and field names as short as possible. Okay. Description, this is the value of the company of the client. Okay. So this is the revenue they make, not us, and this is their total value of their organization, not the value of the contract. So we want to specify that. This is going to be a number. Okay, if they were 0, they would have no value, so it is going to be ratio, and it can be fractions. So if we're looking at what that could be, remember that string is text, integer is number, and float can have fractions. So we'll make this a float. And here, potential values, this is just going to be a number. Okay, so we can leave it blank. You've noted that it is a float, and you can actually put here dollar value in the description, so we know that. You can also use your potential value section if you want. Just say, you know, the number is going to be in millions of dollars or thousands of dollars or whatever, right? So you could note that. By putting in hard brackets, I'm knowing that that is not a choice. It's that the value will be that. Often rather, instead of doing it here in potential values, we would put it in description and we put it in a separate column, as we talked about in terms of how it's measured. Okay, rather than putting it there, and that way we can leave that column simply for possible answers. We could go through company classifications, the same kind of thing as the salesperson. It's choosing from a list. The projected value of the contract is the dollar value, so it's going to be very much like that company revenue. The only difference here is identifying that it's the value of the contract as opposed to the value of the company. For number 5, where we have date contacted, we want to specify how those dates are tracked. Is it just going to be a March 5? Is it going to be March 5, 2024? And so how is that signaled there? So then we get into 6, where it's from a drop-down menu. We would probably code that as we said earlier. So let's say we do 6, just switching it up here. Question 6. Question 6 is going to be our March status of the relationship. In March, okay. And in this case, it's going to be nominal. And we could decide to code this. So qualified 1, contacted 2, demo 3, proposal 4, negotiations 5. Yeah, I know that's not spelled correctly. Win 6. Negotiations. That's what happens when you take off your glasses. No more ring light, can't see anything. All right, so what we have here is for the field type, we'll go with integer because we're going to have it entered in as 1, 2, 3, 4. if we're going to have it labeled as qualified, contacted, then we would go with string. Now, notice here I didn't put in lost because we can create a separate status here, Q6B or whatever. And this was his relationship lost. And we would specify this is relationship lost in March. Okay, put that in the description here. Relationship lost in March. We're going to call that lost March just to simplify here. And in this case, what we would do is anyone who is lost in March, we are actually going to make it a Boolean because it's basically yes, no, true, false. True, false, yes, no. So if they were lost in March, then it would indicate true or yes. Okay, and so in this case, the scale here is nominal. They fall into one of those two categories. But now what we can do is figure out what percentage of the contacts in March were lost. And we can separate it from the other part here where we can show movement along towards our goal of winning the contract, because it's quite possible we lose them after they're contacted or after the demo or after the proposal. And so in those cases, loss can happen at any time. So we don't want it to be part of the scale. We want to have it separate. Okay. So when we look at this previous one, qualified contacted, you can identify it as nominal. You can also do it as ordinal if you want. There is a ranking to it, right? You're moving in a single progression along the line. So you could also indicate that this is ordinal. As we'll talk in a future video, there is a bit of a gray area sometimes when it comes to ordinal. Do you treat it more like interval ratio? Do you treat it more like nominal? And so there is some choices you can make as an analyst in terms of how you want to deal with it. Are these discrete groups? You're either qualified or contacted, or is it a progression that you're moving along, in which case it's ordinal? Is there equidistance between qualified, contacted, that you can then actually treat it more like interval and ratio? So we'll leave that for you for now. We'll come back to that discussion in a later video. So you can go through and you can continue to work through them. Again, because we have March, April, and May, then it's going to be very repetitive in our dictionary. And so there, the difference between the March, April, and May is that it's coming from different origins. We're pulling it from different databases that information is coming from, but it's very much the same, the March group, the April group. And so they should be formatted the same in those different spreadsheets or in those different databases so that we can pull them together to see how things change over time. That's the point of our data dictionary. So give it a try, fill out some more of these, see if you can't complete a data dictionary for this particular data set. We'll revisit this data set and the bargaining data set as we get into cleaning our data and doing some analysis.